It is, quite possibly, the most infamous scene of any Final Fantasy game. All you have to do when talking about Final Fantasy X is reference it as the laugh. Yeah, it's pretty bad. But it's not actually quite as bad as a lot of people think. In a lot of ways, the fact that the laugh is so cringy is actually the point. Tidus and his voice actor, James Arnold Taylor, deserve a little bit of slack here. Let's talk about why. First, let's set the scene, because context matters. Final Fantasy X is an epic game. You play as Tidus? Yes, Tidus, not Titus, according to James Arnold Taylor. Anyway, Tidus is a traveler through time who has to help Yuna and her fellow guardians on a journey to defeat Sin and free the land of Spira from the terror that Sin brings. As part of the summoner's journey, Yuna and the rest of her party, including Auron, Riku, Lulu, Wakka, and Kimahri, must travel across the world to obtain the final Aeon that will defeat Sin. Of course, this is a Final Fantasy series, so there's a ton of complications, including the usual themes of a corrupt, lying government, deep-seated family history that is a source of pain, and, well, it's Final Fantasy, so there's chocobos and guys named Sid. Anyway, we pick up leaving the city of Luca, and Tidus is depressed, understandably so. As the game unfolds, Tidus continues to find out more about his family history, including the fact that his missing father, Jecht, is actually Sin. Tidus' depression grows, eventually attracting the attention of Yuna. Yuna, better than most, understands Tidus' pain. After all, she's an expert at having to smile to inspire the world, even when she doesn't want to. To that end, she encourages Tidus to smile, then laugh. And that's how we end up with this. Of course, the two eventually collapse from the cringe laughter into real laughter. They rejoin the party, and Wakka says what we're all thinking.
We were just worried you guys might have gone crazy.
With you, buddy. Look, this clip is awful, right? The facial animations, the stilted laughter, the party's reaction, everything about it screams cringe. It became infamous on the internet, spawning a ton of mockery, its own page on the Final Fantasy Wikipedia, and a slew of articles in the major gaming press. Here's the thing, though. That was actually the point about the scene. And it's sort of unfair that the excellent voice acting of James Arnold Taylor and Heidi Burris were so maligned as a result of the scene. Let's start with Taylor. At one point, Taylor was pretty active on social media and YouTube, and you can check out his long and extensive channel to get insight into the game, Tidus the character, and more. Anyway, in one of his most watched videos, Taylor noted that the cringeworthy nature of the scene means that it worked exactly as it was supposed to.
But the laugh was on purpose, okay? It was written that way. It's supposed to be like that. He's being a bit of a goof there. They laugh at the end of it. He laughs a little before it. This is silly. And all these years later, I still look back at it and I think it's great. I think it's funny. I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's bad, or oh, it's bad acting, or oh, it's stupid, or it's awkward. Yeah, it is. It's supposed to be. That's the point.
As Taylor notes, very correctly, the Japanese version of the scene features the exact same laugh. More to the point, and I can't stress this enough, context really matters. The scene itself shows not only Tidus' sadness at his evolving circumstances, but how he can overcome that sadness. It also showcases the blossoming romantic relationship between him and Yuna, and demonstrates how Yuna can be supportive of Tidus, just like Tidus has supported Yuna. In that sense, it's sort of a touching scene. It shows the relationship between two characters that would evolve into something deeply special. Also, the scene seemed to work for game director Yoshinori Kitase. In a 2019 interview with Game Informer, Kitase said, quote, "Even in the real world, actions taken by two people in a budding romance are generally embarrassing memories when you look back at them. I believe that this scene depicts that mental state very well." The scene, of course, is still made fun of by fans, but I imagine that is because it generally touched something in everyone's heart for it to be such a memorable scene, even after 18 years. That might be a little bit of an optimistic perspective, but I think Localization editor Alexander O. Smith had it better. He noted that the scene was just as bad in Japanese as it was in English, telling Video Games 24/7 that it was, quote, "weird and stilted and out of place in both languages." He called it a completely ridiculous scene that was reflective of Japanese melodrama. In fact, when discussing the scene with the Japanese writer of the game, Smith told reporters that he said, quote, "What the fuck is going on, dude? Because this is very strange." Smith's interview gives rise to the idea that this wasn't a problem with the voice acting, or even something that got lost in translation. I'd honestly argue that the scene's failure and goofiness is a reflection of the writing itself. Personally, I had no idea when I first watched the scene that the forced laughter was supposed to be awkward. It just looked like horrific acting, which apparently it wasn't. In fact, Smith called it a, quote, successful localization, because Taylor's performance was just as awkward as that of his Japanese counterpart. That brings me back to my main point here. I really think it's the writing that dropped the ball. And that's a shame, because it nuked a scene that could have done a much better job of highlighting Yuna and Tidus' romance, as well as the stakes for their journey. But at least we'll always have the remixes. For example, Twitch streamer Monotone Tim released this gem, Tidus Fantasy X. You guessed it. It replaces all of Tidus' lines with his laughter. So, there's some nightmare fuel. Link in the description if you want to scar yourself further and download the mod to the Steam version of Final Fantasy X. Then there's this horror show remix. Now, that being said, to his infinite credit, James Arnold Taylor also got in on the action, releasing this lip-sync LSD trip gone bad. Big credit to Taylor for having a sense of humor about the whole thing. Now, for those of you who can't get enough of Final Fantasy, check out this video we released a little while ago. It details the origins of the Final Fantasy series, including why Hironobu Sakaguchi named it Final Fantasy, and just how close the game was to being canceled completely. And for the rest of you, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and hit the subscribe button. It does a really, really good job of helping promote this channel and letting me know that we're producing the right content for you. Have a wonderful day out there, friends, and don't let there be any almost in your life.